Devin Graves here, coming to you from Studio D, bringing to you a new series about vocals, singing, warm-ups, exercises, technique, all that stuff. And I thought today would be a great place to start by showing you how I warm up from the ground up. It's a perfect day for me to do this because yesterday I was quite sick. The past couple of days I was very ill in bed. For the past month I've been coughing and things aren't very good for my voice right now. So it's a perfect time to demonstrate how even in really beat up condition you can still get your voice going. Now, this isn't if your voice is damaged or if your voice is swollen. If you have laryngitis, that's a whole different thing. I'm just talking about being under the weather, having been coughing, having not sung for a couple of days, and having the cards just basically stacked against me from the get-go. But because I'm not dealing with damage on the vocal cords, I have a chance of getting through this with minimal problems. Okay. The first thing that you want to have on hand, and this is kind of like the singer's training kit. There's a couple of things you need. First thing, you always need to have water on hand. Drinking water is, of course, as you know, super important to stay hydrated. But that water I just drank now isn't going to help me until about a half an hour from now as it goes through the lining of my stomach into the bloodstream and eventually up to the vocal cords. So I'm going to show you a few tools to deal with that. In fact, the first thing I'll show you is for just that issue. This is something called a nebulizer. It's not a humidifier. It doesn't use heat to warm up the water. It doesn't. So it's not steam that you're breathing in. It's not hot. But it is water mixed with salt, 0.9% salt to be exact. I got this mixture at a pharmacy. This cost about $2. You can make your own, I presume. You'd want to boil about a liter of water, exactly a liter of water. You would want to remove 9 centiliters of water, that's 9 grams, 9 centiliters of water out of the 1,000 that you have, and replace that with 9 grams of salt. Then let that dissolve, put it in a good clean container. Just make sure you're using the purest water you can. I don't know about distilled water. I don't know if I would mess with that. Just normal water. If you have good, clean drinking water, it's a good place to start with. And 0.9% salt matches the water to salt ratio you have in your own body. Now, I'll give you a little demonstration here. Imagine these my thumbs here. Imagine my thumbs are your vocal cords, okay? And then over them is another set, what they call the false cords, the faux cords. There's another name for it. I'm not really sure. I'm not a medical doctor. But, okay, so imagine you have your vocal cords, and as you speak, they vibrate. As you breathe, they open. And as you swallow, this set of muscles closes. The set of folds closes, I should say, and allows the food or liquid to pass down into your stomach instead of down into your lungs. If any water were to touch the vocal cords, it would create a coughing response. And that's just our way to keep stuff out of the lungs. It's a very sensitive membrane. It's there essentially to protect matter other than air from going into the lungs. The vocal cord is the last line of defense to that end. So, if you imagine that this is happening when I'm swallowing my tea with honey or my water or sucking on my lozenges that are supposed to help the voice, you can see that none of that stuff actually touches the vocal cord. So none of that stuff can do any immediate good. Now, tea and honey does a different set of good. The warm tea, as long as it's not too hot to burn you, is just good for the relaxation of the throat. The honey is good in keeping the the mouth lubricated, keeping the saliva content in the mouth high. That's always good to do. So having a little bit of tea or honey is always going to be good. But it's not going to affect a dry vocal cord. The only thing that's going to do that is applying water directly to the vocal cord by the way of this nebulizer. Now, this one is a medical grade nebulizer that I got. I actually got it from a vocal coach when I was playing in Holland. It was I forget what the concert was. It might have been Prague Power Europe. But anyway, we were doing a short tour before the God-Shaped Void record was released, and for many different reasons, my voice was actually quite trashed, and I had a pretty bad run. Along the way, I sought the help from a vocal coach who taught me some relaxation exercises and got me this, which really didn't help me at the time because the damage had already been done. But now that the damage is long healed, this has been very, very important in me building my voice back and keeping it in good shape during recordings or just general vocal training. The water is in here. Turn this thing on, and you can see that steam coming out. And you just breathe normally. I don't want to do it too long in this room. Normally when I do this, I step right outside a door that's right there, and I step outside this room because this salty mist you don't want landing all over your microphones. It would be actually, I could imagine that this would be very bad for your equipment. So I wouldn't do this in the studio. I would do it near the studio. But I would do it first. Make sure you get nice and hydrated. And the second tool is basically just a bottle filled about a third of the way with water and a little rubber hose. And this rubber hose is about a centimeter in diameter, about a third of an inch. This is about a foot of it, so about 30 centimeters of it. And then you just dip that down into the water. Dip it down about this far. This is about an inch, about 3 centimeters in. So if you find the surface right there, then just give it about that distance. There you go. So, and what you're going to do is, this is kind of a massage for the throat. This just wakes up all the musculature in the palate, in the throat, and it may sound like I'm making a loud note or that I'm actually using a lot of effort because I'm closing my eyes, and it may look like I'm really pushing, but I'm just closing my eyes to reinforce the relaxation response. And I'm going to do a series of 3 low relaxed notes. 2 are going to be straight, and the last one is going to drop at the end. Just boom. And so in warming up, you still want to preserve proper vocal architecture, which is, the lungs partially, not fully, but, reasonably inflated. The chest expanded, but not overly compensated, just expanded. The shoulders back and relaxed, the neck relaxed. And this area here, this is like, here's my belly button. So we're talking about 2 fingers below the belly button. Excuse me. About 2 fingers below the belly button. It's like looking in a mirror. About 2 fingers down below the belly button is where you're focusing on the musculature there to give that diaphragmatic support. Now your diaphragm is what is doing the work breathing in and out. But this set of muscles here is what is giving the support, where that diaphragm isn't doing the work all alone. It has support of a whole muscle structure beneath it. So you could even actually try that. Just breathing out with this point as the center. Remember, here's my navel, and 2 fingers down. Shh. Shh. That's just a good exercise to get that muscle set in conjunction with actual breathing. Okay? Now, as I warm up or even as I sing, I'm not really pushing that much from there. That's just where the center of focus is. That's where attention is in the musculature. There and in the upper palate. The upper palate is really called the soft palate. It's in the back of the throat on the top, that soft spot behind the roof of your mouth. That's something that you can arch upward or relax. And arching it upward is good vocal form. The higher you sing, the more arch you get. And in fact, that's the musculature that creates that high range, that it reaches those high notes, is that musculature. You're not pushing, you're, okay, you're pulling up. So, now we're going to warm up. So first, we would have done this for a little while. I would say about 2 minutes. I don't want to do it that long in here, not only for the sake of the video, but for the sake of the microphones. You're just breathing normally. You're not like breathing in deeply. Breathing in, I'm relaxed, so some of it's going through the sinus, some of it's going down the mouth. But generally, you can focus on just the mouth. Breathing just normally, not too shallow, not too deep, because you're not hydrating the lungs. You're just trying to get that mist to, touch the vocal cords and to get absorbed into those cords. Then you take your water here and you dip the straw down about to there. You do this 3 notes that I was mentioning. There will be 2 that are just sustained, and then the third one will be sustained and then drop off. Now, you don't want to do these notes too long, because you don't, that will start to give you stress. Like at the end of the note, you start to be stressing to make it longer. You don't want that. You want to stop before you get to that point, because this is all about relaxation. But you want it long enough to feel that massage. You're going to relax your cheeks, relax your throat, and make like so. Breathe in through the nose. And the third one. Now, it doesn't matter if it sounds warbly or whatever. This is just to relax the vocals. And I do 3 or 4 sets like that. But before you get to it's probably smarter to do some lip drills. Now, these lip drills are just, you've probably seen these before. It's kind of half relaxation and half, circulation and warm up of the palate. So we'll start down here on a G, and we'll just do this basic fifth of a major scale, 1 through 5 of a major scale, and we do it this way. We're completely relaxing the cheeks, and we're just keeping the proper posture. If you're feeling ambitious, you can throw the octave at the end. If you find yourself having trouble getting the lips to chances are you're just too tense here. But one little trick that'll help is if you put your fingers here, like say where the edges of my mustache here. And eventually you'll get used to it, and you can do it without doing that to your lips. Relax. Deep breath. And I try not to go too high with the lip drills, because when you have the lip drills, you have the jaws more or less closed. And when you're hitting higher notes, you really want your jaw more open. And so if you go up too high on the lip drills, you might find yourself compensating by tensing up these muscles. So when I get up to about where I was, maybe a little higher, then I switch it just to an ah sound. Let's start on an 8. Okay, my voice kind of cut out on that. So I want to pay a little concentration to that. And if your voice cuts out, maybe you've got some phlegm in there, or maybe it's just not warmed up, and don't push harder to get the note out. In fact, go in the opposite direction. Stop, do it quieter, because we're just warming up. This is an important distinction: warm-ups versus exercises. And this probably counts as an exercise. But if I'm doing it lightly and not exhausting myself and not pushing myself to the very highest notes and all that stuff, I'm just warming up. Look at it this way. Exercising is like going to the gym and working out, doing vocal exercises. Your mindset should be working out. Singing live or recording is like playing the game. You're out there on the field, you're playing for the championship. Okay? Before both of those, you want to warm up. But one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go to the gym and work out until you're exhausted and then go play that championship game. It's either one or the other. But warm up is crucial for both. And warm up is generally the same for both. What you want to do is wake your voice up, get comfortable, but you don't want to push yourself to the limits. Now, I'm going to want to wake up the higher register of my voice. This is going to be found again in that arched, soft palate. And I'm just going to reach for a few notes that are chest voice register. Now, when I do this showing of the teeth, similar to the diaphragmatic support you're getting from your abdominal muscles, if I show my teeth, I'm giving support to the muscles that raise that upper palate. So, I start at a high, somewhat comfortable note and then work my way down. And I'm hitting that note only as loud as I need to hit it to get it to have full resonance. I'm not pushing it. I'm not trying to sing loud. I'm not trying to sing powerful. I'm just trying to see, okay, is that clear? Does it sound good? Ah! A lot of people believe they can't sing in the morning. I used to be one of those people until I got this kind of regiment that I developed that allows me to warm up properly. And now when I do that, I can sing first thing in the morning, even if I haven't had a full night's sleep. And that used to be a very big struggle as well. Anyone will tell you that getting a good night's sleep is absolutely crucial for singing. And I would say, yes, it's true. But in the past, not having a full night's sleep would have been the end of the world to me. And now I can deal with it. It's time to get to some singing. If I was recording now, what I would do is I would now fire up the microphone, put on the headphones, put on the song, and start to acclimate myself to the sound of the monitors and acclimate myself to the level I should be singing, however is appropriate for the song. But one thing I wouldn't do is sing Back in Black right now. I would kind of work my way into something like that. So, imagine if I was going to sing like Mosquito. And if I wanted to sing it free of distortion, crawling, crawling into my head, mosquito, mosquito red, pieces, disease is dead, floating in the grease as they smile instead. Sing a lullaby in the dead of night, right on the wings of a dragonfly, sleep by the candlelight. So that would be a good way to start that song. But say I want to put distortion onto it. I start clean and then I kind of work into that distortion before I hit record. Distortion is the thing that has been it has plagued me because I love a good distorted voice, not too distorted, but just perfectly distorted, like say Ian Anderson on Aqualung or Freddie Mercury on the early Queen records. Just the right amount of distortion. It's not overblown, not like, Bon Scott or Brian Johnson, nothing against them, but that's not the sound I'm after. I like this subtle distortion. And finding that distortion actually has cost me my voice on many recordings because I've always overdone it, and I've also always misunderstood how to apply it. I would just go for it, and I would sing it louder and louder and louder every take I make. And eventually I would muscle my way through a take and finally get something that's in pitch and not cracking. But once I get there, my voice is probably shot for a couple of days. And you don't have to do it that way. You just have to know how to get distortion, and I'm still working on that. So if I was crawling into my head, mosquito, mosquito red, just a little bit on there, and not everywhere, let it kind of come where it comes. And the way that I do it is I showed you. Let's see if I can do this again. I showed you the vocal cord and then the secondary or the false vocal cords. Well, these false vocal cords are what is creating that vocal compression, that glottal compression that is holding the air back through force, like air is being pushed through. And the more you push it through using this diaphragmatic support, then the more you can resist with these fake vocal folds, and it kind of holds that air back. This protects the vocal cords from overextending and, like, you know, hyperextending, let's say, and causing injury. This is like a safeguard, and that's where the distortion comes from. And you have to learn to close it and get just that right amount and work on it. And the best way to determine that is record yourself. And be careful not to go too far. And here is a warm-up you can do if you're having a little trouble with that crossover between the chest voice and the head voice. You can do this sweep. Find a middle note here. Let's say a C. The C is definitely on a chest voice, and then it slips into falsetto as it goes up. I'll go a little lower. To A sharp. Let's go to an A. That's a good one, because right when I get up to that octave, that's when that transition happens. And again, don't forget the posture, the slightly expanded chest, relaxed shoulders, and a little pressure here down on this button just below the navel. When you're going for distortion, or when you're going for a high, powerful note, that little button right down here, that's the button you press. You're not always clenching it in, not always. You're just focused on it all the time. If you're singing, the passage opens, and I slip into your... Now, I hear there's some phlegm on my voice, and it's holding it back. So I need to work that out. So I'm going to do this kind of throat clear. Really be careful if you're clearing your throat. That man, be very careful with that, because that can cause damage. Coughing causes big time damage. So if you have to cough into a pillow or a towel, or something that will take the brunt of the force of that air, so that your vocal cords don't have to do it. But if I sing, like, say, for example, the passage opens, I feel my voice completely coated right now. So I'm going to apply some distortion, and that's going to kind of have that throat clearing response. The passage opens, and I slip into your conscience, under your skin. Through the doorway, my shadow spills straight to your senses to prey upon your will. Let's see if that helped me at all. The passage opens, and I slip into your conscience, under your skin. Okay, it's better, but I still need to get a better relaxation response going there. Get a little water. And also, what's working against me here is I'm sitting down. For me, I need to stand, and it's actually the recommended position for all singers to stand, because this is the musculature that you're really using. And if you're seated, you can see how you're kind of crimping that up. And so if I were to, let me raise this a little bit. Okay. The passage opens, and I slip into your conscience, under your skin. Through the doorway, my shadow spills straight to your senses to prey upon your will. So now I need to warm that section up. Two. And I would do that by not nailing it full voice right away. Let's say two. That's just a airy falsetto. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly work that into full resonance. Once I hit full resonance, I'm going to discontinue increasing pressure. I'm going to maintain the same pressure because that is the sweet spot. Right when you hit resonance, that's the sweet spot between getting ample volume and having good reserve for stamina, for vocal integrity, that you're not blowing everything out, tiring yourself out. So, if you feel dry, do the nebulizer. Always take a drink of water. Drink water an hour, a good healthy glass of water an hour before you're going to do any singing. Give it time to get into your system and get available into the saliva glands. Do the nebulizer right before warming up, right after warming up, and between takes while you're recording. You might feel like, you feel it getting dry. Resist the temptation to just go, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to nail it this time. I'm going to nail it this time. Because every time you do, you probably aren't going to quite nail it because your voice is already getting dry. You might get lucky, but in the process, you're going to start to hurt yourself. So stop, hydrate your voice, then continue. You're going to see there's a big difference. You're going to see it's going to be a lot easier right then. You're probably going to get the take right after that. If you feel like you've pulled a muscle, like you're warming up or you're singing and you just went too high, and you feel a muscle that kind of, ow, immediately stop, take a drink of water, and do the bubbles. Until there's no traces of that little pain anymore. Then you can go again and be careful, If you feel a sharp pain on the voice, you've probably just hurt yourself, and then you should most definitely stop. This would be something that would cause like a blister on the vocal cord itself. This is the thing that really causes hoarseness, swelling, and damage. If you doing, say, distortion or a really high note, and the vocal cord feels itchy afterwards, or if it feels a sharp kind of abrasion type of pain, immediately stop singing. Do the steam, the nebulizer, until that sensation goes away. If it's itchy, it's probably just drying out. So you need to do the nebulizer. It'll probably make you cough, and but it's really, really important to know how to pace yourself, how to have the discipline to stop, and to take care. If you do this, your voice is going to give you a long day of work, and the next day you're going to feel fine. The next day you aren't going to have any issues as long as you have been singing correctly. So that's my warm-up procedure. I do this every day. I don't normally do all this talking in between, but what I would like to demonstrate is, let's just go for a high note, okay? Because I haven't done that yet. Now I want to stand up for the high notes for sure. So let me adjust my camera if I can. That's just a high E. So I went up to a F sharp, which is probably most of the time the highest note I would have hit in Psychotic Waltz. I always said it was a G because if they were playing, it would be a G on their guitar, but they were tuned down to an E flat, so that would put it at a F sharp. The highest note I probably hit was probably technically an A flat. So let's say a G. So that sounds to me like I've had a successful warm-up. And either A, I would go into singing, go into tracking, go off on stage, or I would then start my vocal exercises if I'm trying to build my voice, and exercises will be a whole other video, but this is how I begin each vocal day. I hope it helps you. So until the next time.